Going up what is expected to be one of the highest-rated Raws of the year starting in an hour, Nitro opened with Randy Savage arriving to the building planning a surprise back to Nash, with the first match turning into an angle with Hack coming out smoking a cigarette to lead to Dylan and Bischoff confronting him to get rid of it, with Eric, who was back on commentary for the night during the first hour, made several shoot comments throughout, with the most talked about one being either a guess or an inside source. As around 40 minutes before Raw went on the air, Eric mocked the higher power reveal, saying that the guy under the hood starts with the initials VM, while moments later continuing to take shots at Vince, saying that the higher power is not so powerful right now after getting a $100 million lawsuit, referring to Sable suing the company over the past week. Nitro had a Flair and Benoit backstage conversation next, with Flair trying to talk Benoit back into the Horsemen, offering him a tag titles shot, with Flair and Benoit teaming against Page and Bigelow later tonight. With Bill Goldberg off television for the past month after undergoing knee surgery, Goldberg's dispute with the company over an improved contract continued during the week, with him publicly talking about his current status, saying that he wants to be compensated in comparison to his worth in the company, while talking about the direction of his character over the last few months, telling the company good luck in finding the next guy to duplicate his rise in the last year, with Bischoff, who as a result of being forced into negotiations again had major heat with Goldberg's agent, responding to the Goldberg interview saying that they're currently not negotiating and Goldberg is in the first year of a contract signed just last year. Randy Savage was out next for a promo calling out Nash to the ring, before issuing an open challenge to anyone to bring out Sting and set up Savage vs Sting for the main event, while minutes later Nash arrived to the building going straight to the ring with a bag in hand, calling Savage back out a few minutes from the top of the hour to end with Nash getting Savage again, dropping the bucket on him 6 days from their pay-per-view title match. Nitro crossed over the top of the hour with the end and the replay of the Savage-Nash segment, along with Ric Flair and Chris Benoit teaming up against Page and Bigelow for the tag titles, going 13 minutes with Flair after talking Benoit into the match in the earlier segment, turning on him for the finish to bring out Saturn to take his place and win the tag belts, to a big reaction, as Nitro's first opposed quarter, with the end of the Nash-Savage segment in the following tag match did the show peak 3.7 rating and the only segment not to be more than doubled by Raw. After the last 2 weeks of dealing with the repercussions of the Owen tragedy, the WWF was looking to get back on track, hyping one of the biggest shows of the year with the Greater Power reveal, opening the show with Vince McMahon coming out to build for the segment, mentioning some of the rumored names being talked about, including Shawn Michaels and Jake Roberts, while announcing that whoever the higher power is, he is challenging him to a fight tonight, as Shane came out to notify viewers that the reveal is coming up next. As Raw had its most hyped segment of the night taking place already at 9:15 p.m., Nitro featuring the end of the opening tag match in the first half of another hardcore cruiserweight tag match, saw the numbers dropping from a head-to-head show high 3.7 rating to a show low 2.5. After weeks of build-up, the WWF placed the big segment of the night already in the second quarter of the show, with the idea of spiking viewership early and building the rest of the program around the follow-up of the reveal. as the corporate ministry came out minutes later with Taker saying that after months of assembling an army with both the corporation and ministry groups laying the groundwork, they're gonna find out who was behind it, bringing out the mystery person with the tease of it being Shane before he came out to the ring, setting up one final swerve with Vince appearing on the screen looking to find out who it is before eventually revealing himself as the greater power, saying that there's no line he won't cross to ruin Austin, bringing out Linda and Stephanie for the second big reveal of the night, with Linda revealing Austin as the new CEO with 50% ownership of the company, coming out to a huge pop and booking the card for tonight, including a Rock vs. Triple H cast match and an open challenge for every member of the union. The segment, which went over 35 minutes with one commercial break in the middle between the McMahon's promo to open the broadcast and the two reveals a segment later, drew a big 7 rating, gaining over 2.2 million viewers for the duration of it. WCW bounced back over 300,000 viewers from a show low in the second quarter to a 2.7 rating with 2 matches in the quarter between 9:30 to 45, having the second half of a hardcore tag match going 7 minutes, along with an NWO backstage segment with Scott Norton complaining that the rest of the group left the building before his match last week, followed by Miller vs. Horace with the NWO watching from the locker room. Raw's Greater Power segment crossed over into the third quarter of the show, with Austin in addition to the card for tonight booking himself in a handicap match against Vince and Shane for the King of the Ring pay-per-view, followed by Linda giving Austin a briefcase of beer on his first night of running the company, with Raw, which featured a tag titles match between the Acolytes and the Brood going 4 minutes for the rest of the quarter, maintained almost the entire audience with a 6.8 rating coming off the massive viewership spike for the previous segment. Both shows had promo segments next going on at the same time, with Roddy Piper saying that he's gonna take control of the company from Flair before talking about hearing all the young wrestlers on the roster complaining that they should be in the main event instead of the veterans, bringing out one of the main representatives in Buff Bagwell for a confrontation, asking Bagwell how many times he headlined the Garden, with Bagwell responding that he wasn't born yet and it's not 1975. Setting up Piper giving Bagwell an opportunity to run with the ball, booking a match between them for the pay-per-view. At the same time, Raw had the Union coming out to announce their matches outside of Mick Foley, who was off the show recovering from knee surgery done during the week, setting up 2 major matches with Big Show challenging Taker for the title, and Shamrock challenging Vince in the Lion's Den cage. Nitro's big talking point of the show came at the start of the third hour as Nash was about to leave the building before being lured into Randy Savage's limousine, while a white Hummer crashed it 3 times before driving away with the identity of the driver still unknown, leading to anticipation for the reveal of the driver, with Bischoff, who already left the commentary table by the time of the Nash-Savage segment and was on a live WCW website chat at the same time, hinted that the driver might be Sable, who just left the WWF on bad terms and filled an over $100 million lawsuit against the company, claiming that McMahon breached the contract agreed with the company last August along with the edgy direction of the product and her TV character, as Sable, who shot her second Playboy magazine weeks earlier, combined with her being one of the biggest viewership movers in the business since the start of the year, led to speculation on her potentially signing with WCW and finishing the legal issues against McMahon. as Nitro dropped to a joint show low 2.5 rating featuring mostly recaps and commercials along with the replay of the Hummer attack. Rock vs. Triple H in the first ever cast match ending with Undertaker attacking Rock to build to their title program on the way to the King of the Ring pay-per-view, along with a Deborah vs. Nicole Bus Bikini contest saw Raw jump over 500,000 viewers to its highest rated quarter of the night with a 7.1 rating. The Steiner brothers were out next on Nitro cutting a promo on Sting and Luger and challenging any team to come out and face them. Scott, who has been out of the ring since the Slamboree pay-per-view with a series of shoulder and back injuries, was working through a severe back injury over the last year, with him not wanting to take time off while in the middle of him being elevated to one of the biggest stars in the company, while also being reluctant to go through back surgery which will keep him out of the ring for almost a year. WCW, which was trying to work around the TNT restrictions to compete with the WWF product, including on the night with cigarettes, car attacks and more leeway on the language, officially announced 2 crossover deals, with Dennis Rodman returning to the company for the first time since being involved in one of the biggest pay-per-views in company history last July, along with rapper Master P, who is scheduled to be part of the Conan vs. Kurt Hennig Battle of Music Styles angle. In addition to the signing announcements, Eric Bischoff on the WCW website interview talked about a number of topics, including defending Nash's role as the head booker of the company, saying that Nash needs time and had to deal with injuries, contractual issues and the challenge of writing 7 hours of television per week. Bischoff also responded to claims that the WWF stunt crew at the Over the Edge pay-per-view were the same as the WCW crew, saying that while they did cancel a Sting entrance that was scheduled for the day after the Owen incident, WCW's team are all qualified and experienced with several safety precautions. The final quarters of both programs saw a similar format, with Nitro having the finish of a Bagwell vs. Disco match, while at the same time Raw had Vince McMahon vs. Ken Shamrock in a Lion's Den match, ending up with Vince going over after Jeff Jarrett's interference before bailing out of the building, as after the gap slightly closed in the previous quarter with the Steiners promo, Nitro went back to a 2.5 rating while Raw grew to a 6.9. with both main event entrances taking place minutes near the top of the hour, with both the Savage vs. Sting and Taker vs. Show matches set to go head-to-head past 11 p.m. Nitro's Randy Savage vs. Sting main event saw WCW's biggest viewership spike of the night, jumping over 1.2 million viewers to a 3.5 rating in the overrun, ending with the Steiners and Luger interfering for the finish, with the show going off the air with the Savage vs. Nash Great American Bash main event in question following the Hummer attack. Raw's main event of Taker vs. Show match for the title went 7 minutes through the 5-minute overrun, ending with Big Show choke slamming Taker through the ring, gaining over 600,000 viewers to peak the night with a 7.3 rating, as Raw, driven by 3 big quarters, doing over a 7 rating, along with the intriguing broadcast that maintained the massive audience throughout, drew the second highest competitive rating in show history, only behind the Owen Hart tribute show 2 weeks earlier with a 6.7 rating. With Seed making his WCW return to close out the Great American Bash pay-per-view last night, with him and Savage laying out Nash for the finish. Savage and Seed, who walked out on ECW just days earlier to sign his WCW contract, arrived to the building with the announcers hyping the response from Nash, along with 2 more surprise debuts set for tonight. WCW. In addition to trying to refresh the brand with the new logo and marketing campaign, along with getting outside media exposure from the signings of Dennis Rodman and Master P, was set for 2 major Stadium Nitro shows in the next 2 weeks in New Orleans and Atlanta, and with ticket sales slowing down in the last few months compared to the peak, the company was set to load up the shows in attempts to draw near-record crowds, with Bischoff on commentary acknowledging the situation, putting it in part because Hogan, Goldberg, Luger, Hall and Bret are all out with injuries at the same time. Ric Flair and Arn Anderson were out a few minutes from the top of the hour for the crossover segment, taunting the crowd as still the president of the company, hyping a major announcement for tonight, calling out Roddy Piper to the ring, saying that for 20 years him and Piper fought, but he's now offering him to join forces with Piper as the vice president of the company alongside him. Piper came out to accept the position, cutting a promo on the younger wrestlers, complaining that they're not getting main event opportunities, in the process turning heel for the first time since his mid-80s WWF run at the height of the previous boom period, bringing out Dean Malenko, saying that Flair and Piper are doing the same thing they did 15 years ago while pushing anyone else down, continuing to build the feud between generations, naming Ray Kidman, Benoit, Saturn and Bagwell as the guys who should take over the top spots in the company, telling Flair and Piper to step down and pass the torch or they will take it themselves, leading to Piper, Flair and Anderson beating down Malenko to set up an 8-man tag match for later tonight. Promoted as Steve Austin's first day on the job as the new CEO of the company, footage from Austin's day was hyped on Raw in a series of skits at Titan Towers, kicking off with him taking Vince McMahon's parking spot in the building and instructing the new way to answer phone calls, with the corporate ministry coming out moments later for the opening segment. Vince said that last Monday should have been the payoff of 3 months of planning and the greatest swerve in company history, with him being revealed as the greater power. But instead the plan was ruined with Austin being put on an equal position, with the corporate ministry looking to take control back tonight, with Vince booking the union members and several stipulation matches to help them decide which stipulation to put on their match against Austin at King of the Ring, before being confronted by Patterson and Briscoe going against Vince for the first time, with him booking them against Viscera and Mideon as a response, with Raw opening with a 6.1 rating. Already drawing more than double the Nitro viewership from the first quarter. Unlike previous weeks when WCW was able to hold a significant percentage of its unopposed audience to at least get close to Raw in the first quarter, this week saw Nitro opening at a near-show low and dropping further in the second quarter to a 2.7 rating, featuring Scott Norton vs Ernest Miller and the first half of Disco vs Hammer, while Raw picked up the lost viewership at the same time, having the premiere of Rock's new Chef Boyardee commercial, the second skit of Austin in the Office and a Billy Gunn vs Road Dogg match doing a 6.4 rating for the quarter. As Nitro had an OBS vs Finlay hardcore match going 5 minutes while staying in the show low 2.7 rating range, Raw jumped over 400,000 viewers to a 6.6 rating as Rock came out for a promo to a massive ovation from the Worcester crowd, responding to Taker interfering in his cast match against Hunter last Monday, challenging him for the WWF title at the King of the Ring pay-per-view, bringing out Taker for the response, accepting the match to set up a double main event of Rock vs Taker and Austin vs Vince and Shane. The McMahons followed, telling Taker to not accept the match, saying that Rock shouldn't be the #1 contender, booking Taker against Rock for tonight in a non-title match, with Rock getting the title shot if he wins it, along with a surprise stipulation to be revealed 5 minutes before the match. At around 9:45 p.m. WCW had perhaps the biggest surprise of the week, with Sable showing up unannounced, sitting in the front row, coming a week after Sable's over $100 million lawsuit against McMahon and the company was made public, with Nash following moments later in the Great American Bash follow-up promo challenging Seed for the main event tonight, while along with Bischoff on commentary noticing but not acknowledging Sable by name during the promo, with her still under legal issues with the WWF, with the Nash-Sable segment bumping Nitro back over 500,000 viewers into the 3 rating range. While Sable showed up on Nitro, Raw continued to climb to close out the first hour, with her replacement Deborah against Ivory for the women's title, along with Austin having a board meeting at the headquarters, introducing himself to all the executives on the new direction of the company under him, setting up Austin declaring a beer drinking contest between them to see who's left standing, with the quarter, which included a Test vs. Bossman match, jumped over 600,000 viewers to enter the 7 rating range. Nitro opened its third hour with a hyped 8-man tag match built as the past versus the future of the company, with Flair, Piper, Page and Kanyon against Bagwell, Benoit, Saturn and Malenko, with Bischoff on commentary playing off the angle, saying that it's time for the new generation to take over, coming days after a website interview when he indirectly blamed the TV focus on the Horsemen since last November on the dropping numbers of the company, with Flair, who has been one of the top TV draws in the business throughout this period, responding back in an interview Wednesday saying that the Horsemen were never given a fair chance to get over since the Reformation in September '98 and are now done as a unit. At the same time, Raw's top-of-the-hour segment jumped to its highest rated quarter of the night, even against the Big Star Power tag match, with 2 matches in the quarter, first with Big Show vs. X-Pac set up to build the upcoming first Show vs. Kane match at King of the Ring, and Ken Shamrock vs. Jeff Jarrett, with Shamrock going over after being put in a straitjacket by McMahon, jumping to a near-record 7.1 rating. Nitro's 8-man tag went 16 minutes, crossing over 2 quarters, with Buff Bagwell, who was positioned as the head of the Future Generation group, going over Flair clean to win the match, while Raw after the peak quarter settled at a 6.6 rating, with Patterson and Briscoe against Viscera and Mideon, along with Austin going over several company contracts including the McMahons, telling the accountant to shift some of Vince's figure to Mick Foley's salary and make Shane's pay the new beer budgets of the company. Nitro had its highest rated quarter of the night next, starting with Rick Steiner vs. Hack in a TV title match that turned into a hardcore brawl to the parking lot of the MCI Center, with both taking bumps through trucks and motorcycles, setting up Sting coming up from a Hummer to take out Steiner a day after their pay-per-view match ended, with Sting being attacked by dogs backstage, with the quarter picking up over 600,000 viewers to a show-high 3.4 rating. Going against it, Raw had Kane in a handicap match against the Acolytes for the tag belts, going 6 minutes with the Acolytes going over to retain, along with the final Austin skit at the headquarters with him getting into Vince's office in the building, bringing in wheelbarrows of mud to drop in the office to close the angle, with Vince and Shane's response coming up next. WCW opened its final quarter with a Ray and Conan vs. La Parka and Psychosis tag match going 6 minutes, with the focus of the segment being the TV debut of rapper Master P, building up the rap vs. country music angle with Curt Hennig's group, with WCW holding a press conference earlier in the day on Monday to introduce him to the company and get some mainstream coverage, announcing him as one of the highest-grossing entertainers of the year in hopes of attracting a new audience to WCW television, with Bischoff on commentary saying that the competition offered him 3 times the money but he chose WCW instead. After watching Austin's antics at Titan Towers for the past 2 hours, Vince and Shane opened Raw's final quarter for the response promo, with Vince telling Austin that he disgraced the company while challenging him to put his CEO position on the line in a ladder match at the King of the Ring pay-per-view, offering to combine Vince and Shane's stock in the company against Austin before being interrupted by Shamrock laying out Shane and sprinting after Vince to his limousine, with the second half of the quarter seeing Rock and Taker coming out and Hunter being added to make it a 3-way and start the match 5 minutes from the top of the hour, with Raw jumping to a 6.8 rating. With the show already past 11 p.m., Randy Savage came out instead of Seed for the main event, telling Nash to hand him the belt and start an impromptu Savage vs. Nash title match, going a minute before Seed made his TV debut to team up with Savage and bring out Sting for the save, with the overrun having the biggest viewership jump of the night for WCW, picking up over 800,000 viewers to a peak 3.8 rating. Rock, Taker and Hunter went 11 minutes, crossing into the 5-minute overrun, with Rock having the match won by pinning Taker before eventually going over Hunter to book the Rock vs. Taker WWF title match at the King of the Ring pay-per-view and turn Taker and Hunter against each other, with Raw overall continuing the hottest streak in show history with another massive 6.7 rating for the second week in a row, the second highest rated opposed show in its history. A week after Sable's surprise Nitro appearance while under WWF contract, with Bischoff strongly hinting her to be the Hummer driver, Sable continued her media tour talking about the lawsuit against the company in several high-profile publications like TV Guide and USA Today, including being introduced on The Tonight Show as Sable, with McMahon's head attorney Jerry McDevitt sending a legal warning to WCW on Wednesday about featuring a still WWF contracted performer on their television, with WCW on Friday denying any negotiation going on and that Sable brought a ticket on her own. JR on his weekly website report acknowledged the situation, stirring things up with another twist, claiming that he heard rumors that Bill Goldberg might show up in the front row on Raw tonight in Memphis amid his contract dispute with WCW, saying that it's not gonna happen, but indirectly adding fuel to that fire, while putting Goldberg over, saying that they're longtime friends from Goldberg's time playing football in Atlanta, with Goldberg doing an HBO interview not acknowledging his contract issues with the company other than hinting at him being overworked and finally getting time off after dealing with knee injury for the past 8 months. WCW ran several angles in the first hour, including Nash confronting Sting about being the Hummer driver after seeing him getting out of the Hummer last week during his brawl with Rick Steiner, followed by Piper and Flair booking them to team up in the main event of the Bash at the Beach pay-per-view against Savage and Seed, while closing the hour with Master P having a birthday party to bring out Kurt Hennig with a gift cowboy hat, ending the segment exactly at 9 p.m. with the first opposed quarter starting with the return to the ring of Eddie Guerrero for the first time since his car accident in January. Raw opened fast with Triple H calling out Undertaker for a match to kick off the program, bringing out McMahon and the entire corporate ministry to stop it, telling Taker and Hunter that it's what Austin and Rock would want to see them fighting each other, before cutting a promo to hype the double main event on Sunday with Rock vs Taker for the title and Austin vs the McMahons in a ladder match, bringing out Austin for the response saying that he accepts the match and adding another stipulation that if any member of the corporate ministry interferes he automatically wins the match, setting up Shawn Michaels making a surprise return to book it. With all the legal chaos going on since the Owen tragedy, Vince did several media interviews with the focus shifting back to the company being hotter than ever and continuing to catch more fire by the month, with Vince saying that the company creative reinvented itself and are now combining all aspects of show business into one product, including mentioning Ed Ferrara, who joined head writer Vince Russo a year ago to since then take wrestling television storytelling to levels never seen before, saying that it's important to get people with outside perspective with fresh viewpoints. In addition to that, Vince also went back and forth with Bischoff saying that WCW management made a call to a Nitro advertiser for putting a commercial during the broadcast that featured Steve Austin, with Bischoff responding that they placed the commercial during Nitro because they didn't want to put it during the edgy content of Raw, with Eric saying that in hindsight he made the mistake of abandoning the NWO storyline that drove the company when he did last year, but that they're on track to be back competing in a different way. Hogan, who is weeks out from recovering from his knee surgery, took shots at McMahon and the WWF product during a radio interview while indirectly without mentioning him by name took a shot at what appeared to be Goldberg, saying that there's a guy who has received the biggest push in years and is now on the verge of self-destruct. Raw's opening segment, which went over 22 minutes, continued into the second quarter with Michaels booking several matches for tonight, including the McMahons against Patterson and Briscoe, Taker vs Triple H for the title and Austin vs Bossman with him as special referee, with Raw picking up over 700,000 viewers to a 6.1 rating for the conclusion of the segment, along with the Shamrock vs Jarrett match, with Nitro at the same time featuring back-to-back long matches staying in an over 2-year low 2.4 rating for the first 45 minutes of the show. After the long opening segment, Raw took 2 commercial breaks in the third quarter but still maintained a 6.1 rating, having Rock coming out to a huge ovation from the Memphis crowd for a match against Edge, as with Jerry Lawler planning to run for mayor of Memphis later in the year. Rock, who got the biggest crowd reaction of the night, was asked by Lawler to speak on his behalf during the election campaign, which Rock later did during his August-September run. Rock cut a pre-match promo on Taker before going 4 minutes against Edge, going over with the rock bottom people's elbow combination before Taker came out to lay him out with a tombstone. After its lowest rated hour since the NWO boom period started, Nitro had its first viewership jump of the night between 9:45 to 10 p.m. for the second half of the 17-minute Booker vs. Kanyon match, picking up over 700,000 viewers to a 2.9 rating, while Raw had a Mark Henry vs. Viscera press slam match, ending up with Viscera going over and both being slammed from the top rope, along with a worked shoot angle of Chaz Beaver Cleavage doing a pre-match interview before cutting it off saying that he's done with the gimmick and walking out of the match. With both programs having big star power segments at the top of the hour at 10 p.m., both shows unusually picked up around the same number of viewers, with each gaining between 400 to 600,000 viewers as Nitro jumped into the 3 rating range for the first time on the night, having Roddy Piper and Ric Flair coming out for a promo, with Piper again targeting the younger wrestlers, whining about their spots on the card, with Buff Bagwell being the head of that group, mocking him for thinking he should be in the main event just because he stays in the sunbed 3 hours a day, giving Flair the microphone for the response after being pinned by Bagwell the previous week, before bringing Bagwell out to start a brawl with Flair, booking an impromptu handicap match, going 10 minutes with Piper hitting Bagwell with the brass knuckles to give Flair his win back, bumping Nitro to a 3.2 rating for the promo and the match. At the same time of the Flair-Piper-Bagwell segment, Shawn Michaels came out on Raw with Steve Austin working a rare match in the middle of the show against Bossman while bringing out the McMahons with a ladder for commentary, setting up the final hype for the control of the company winner-take-all match, with Vince taking a bump from the top of the ladder through the announcer's table, before Austin went over Bossman in a match going 7 minutes, putting the stipulation of no corporate ministry member allowed to interfere in the match Sunday, with the Austin-Bossman match jumping over 600,000 viewers to the peak quarter of the night 6.2 rating. Nitro had a commercial-heavy quarter after the Flair and Piper vs. Bagwell match and dropped back to a 2.7 rating, having the entrances of the upcoming Page and Bigelow vs. Ray and Conan tag titles match, while Raw had Val Venis calling out Albert after him and Droz attacked him a few weeks back, telling Pritchard to send him out and getting him back by tattooing him while handcuffed to the ropes, along with a DX and Kane vs. Billy Gunn and Acolytes 6-man tag match, maintaining a 6 to 2.7 rating margin. Nitro rebounded over 600,000 viewers back into the 3 rating range, with Page and Bigelow vs. Ray and Conan bumping the show to a 3.1 rating, continuing the pattern of long matches on the night, going 13 minutes to end, with Curt Hennig's group interfering for the finish and Master P appearing in a third segment on the show, while Raw had Big Show vs. Bob Holly, with Holly in a pre-match promo telling him that he's the big shot and want to turn it into an hardcore match, ending up with them brawling outside the Pyramid in Memphis, with Show in a big spot pushing a car on Holly for the finish, followed by the entrances of Vince and Shane against Briscoe and Patterson, with Vince, while already facing 2 major lawsuits from the Hart family and Sable, got a third much smaller one during the week from the TV reporter Vader nearly took out in Kuwait during a talked about interview back in '97, trying to capitalize on the chaotic legal situation in the WWF in recent week. After over 2 hours of hype, Seed and Sting made their entrances 10 minutes from the top of the hour, followed by Savage, going 6 minutes to end, with Sting making a comeback on Seed until Savage's interference for the DQ finish, bringing out Lex Luger for the save to close the show with a stare down between the two teams, with the Sting vs. Seed match in Seed's in-ring Nitro debut jumped over 700,000 viewers in a direct turnover from Raw, which dropped to a 5.7, to the peak quarter of the night 3.6 rating, with Nitro in a rare occurrence ending at exactly 11 p.m. without going into the usual overrun, with the show overall due to one of the lowest rated hours in years during 9 to 10 p.m., dropping to its lowest rating in over 2 years with a 3.1 overall. Raw's final quarter opened with the Vince and Shane against Patterson and Briscoe tag match, going back and forth for 3 minutes before Vince bailed out after Shamrock ran in to take out Shane, followed by a commercial break and Triple H and Taker's entrances for the main event title match going up against the Sting Seed match on Nitro, which saw WCW picking up from a 3.1 to a show-high 3.6, while Raw went from a 6.1 to a 5.7 at the same time, kicking off at 10:55 p.m. with the 6-minute match crossing into the overrun. Raw's overrun, now going unopposed, saw the final minute of the Taker-Hunter match before Rock ran in to take out Taker, signaling to the top of the building to bring down a massive Brahma Bull symbol, fighting off the Ministry before handcuffing Paul Bearer and cutting the final hype promo for the King of the Ring pay-per-view, expected to be the biggest in the brand's history, with the big double main event hyped for the show, as the Rock Taker segment jumped over 1.9 million viewers to a peak 7.4 rating to close the show. Rick and David Flair's limousine arrived at the United Center along with the building's Bruce MacArthur, stopping outside in front of the Michael Jordan statue, with Rick telling David that from tonight Chicago will be known as David Flair Country, booking him in a world title match against Nash for the main event. Bruce told David that tonight the United Center belongs to him, and after he wins the belt, he will build a David Flair statue 10 times bigger than the Jordan one, with Rick closing the segment saying that starting tonight nobody will say they want to be like Mike, but instead they want to be like Dave. Flair and Piper came out to continue the build to the title match. Piper started the promo shooting on Howard Stern, before Flair announced that it will be a lumberjack match, saying that the political structure in the company won't allow him to win the belt, so David will do it instead. Calling out Randy Savage to the ring to ask him to join forces for one night only as they all hate Nash. Savage agreed, saying that he doesn't care who has the belt as long as it's not Nash, with him and Seed at ringside for the main event. WCW's second hour started unusually with Hack calling out Flair, saying that Flair wants to get rid of his hardcore matches and challenging him to go extreme, ending up with Bigelow instead taking the challenge for a match in the crossover segment. With Raw coming off a big King of the Ring pay-per-view with increased interest, it was an expected mismatch in the first quarter. Raw, coming in front of over 19,000 from the Charlotte Coliseum, opened big with a 6.3 rating for the McMahon's celebration with the corporate ministry, after beating Austin in the ladder match and taking control backing the company. Shane said that Austin is officially fired as CEO, with Vince saying that Austin will start back down and will wrestle in the mid-card tonight, while booking an in-house title match for Fully Loaded with Undertaker against Triple H for the belt. Austin came out saying that he had the match won before the briefcase was raised, revealing that while in charge he wrote himself a new contract, in case he screwed on June 27, booking himself in a title match on June 28 for Raw the next night, to set up Taker vs. Austin for the belt with the corporate ministry banned from ringside. Nash came out to a big reaction for the response promo on the Book David Flair match, saying that he was always an outsider in the company and his only ally in Scott Hall is sitting at home in Orlando. Nash agreed to the match and added another stipulation, with him getting Torrie Wilson for 72 hours if he wins, promising to retain the belt tonight. After the opening promos to set up the main events, Shamrock called out Steve Blackman, while WCW hyped a dance contest that turned into a match with Cat and Disco. Raw jumped around 800,000 viewers for the 1999 King of the Ring winner Billy Gunn coming out for his promo, set for the biggest singles push of his career. Gunn said that he's done carrying groups and partners on his back, and now it's all about him, bringing out Triple H and China. Hunter said that he had no issue with Gunn but told him to check his DX royalty money, saying that Road Dogg and X-Pac took the majority of the merchandise money as part of the group while they got a big cut. Moments later Rock ran in a day after Hunter's interfered in the Taker pay-per-view match, taking out both Hunter and Gunn until being separated. In the start of an angle, Test and Stephanie were filmed walking out of a Charlotte hotel, with Shane McMahon and the Mean Street Posse attacking Test backstage during his promo explanation, setting up a big push for Test and a planned SummerSlam match with Shane. Ric Flair continued to up the stakes for the main event, announcing Anderson as the special referee for the Nash-David Flair title match. In a backstage promo, Chaz the former Harry Beaver Cleavage said that he's been through several gimmicks but it's time to be himself. Raw then had Bob Holly calling out Kane, ending up with Big Show interfering in response to last night to cost Kane the match. The top of the hour saw both shows bumped viewers, with WCW having a tag title match with Paige Canyon and Bigelow against Bagwell and Malenko going 16 minutes, with the trio going over after an assisted cutter from Paige and Bigelow. Rock came out to a massive ovation from the Charlotte Coliseum to open Raw's second hour, responding to the finish of the title match with Taker last night at King of the Ring, saying that everyone saw he had Undertaker beat twice during the match. Rock then moved on to Triple H, who interfered in the match to give Taker the win. Hunter came out for the match with Rock dominating until Billy Gunn ran in to hit Rock with the club to end the segment and put Gunn in the mix for a main event position. Next on WCW was the premiere of Curt Hennig's Rap is Scrap country song as part of the Master P angle, showing a comedic music video that got the group coverage in the genre. In what can be described as the Battle of Atlanta, in a similar situation to what happened in the house shows in LA in June '97, or the head-to-head Invasion TV shows in April '98, The WWF put tickets on sale for its return to WCW's home base of Atlanta for the first time in 8 years, in what is set to be one of the biggest draws of the year on October 11 from the Georgia Dome. The deal here, besides Raw coming to WCW territory, is the timing, is that next week's WCW Nitro will come from the Georgia Dome. The company went all out with the promotion for the big return show, sending Austin, Rock, JR among others for a media tour on the day tickets were put on sale, and for that opening day already surpassed WCW's upcoming show next Monday, selling over 21,000 tickets during the weekend. WCW targets next week's show in Atlanta to be one of the biggest of the year, with potential returns of Goldberg, Hogan, and Bret Hart's first appearance since the Owen tragedy, along with special appearances from rapper Master P and Dennis Rodman, and a Nash vs. seeded WCW title match. Next on Raw was Jarrett vs. X-Pac, going 5 minutes for the IC title, ending up with another all-DX brawl, with the Taker vs. Austin main event coming up next. After almost 3 hours of hype, Nash and David Flair came out for the main event, flanked by almost the entire top heel roster at ringside to put in viewers' mind that it can result in a title change. David bailed out of the ring just as the match started, with Savage and the rest jumping Nash until making a comeback and running them off with the taser, ending up with him kidnapping Gorgeous George to a limousine in the parking lot, while seeing a reflection of Sting in a Hummer mirror to tease the reveal of the driver before driving off to close the show. The show-long build to the match ended up paying off, with WCW jumping big with over 1.3 million viewers while going head up with the big main event on Raw, peaking the night with a 4.4 rating, the highest rated quarter in 2 months. Undertaker and Austin made their entrances at 10:48 p.m., with the match set to cross over the top of the hour, going 12 minutes with Steve Austin winning the title back to a huge pop. In a timing issue, WCW went off the air 3 minutes before the scheduled time at 10:57 p.m., giving Raw a huge advantage and lead an audience to close the show. In the 12 head-to-head minutes during the quarter, with the two hyped title matches going on at the same time, WCW jumped to a 4.4 while Raw dropped to a 6.5, the closest margin of the night. Austin vs. Taker, now going unopposed with WCW off the air, started to gain big, and during the 3 minutes between 10:57 to 11 p.m., picked up around 800,000 viewers to a 7.1 final quarter rating. The match continued past 11 for the final 2 minutes in the overrun, and for that duration picked up massive viewership of over 2.5 million viewers to a huge 9.5 rating. While can't be confirmed without full minute-by-minute rating breakdowns, the 9.5 overrun peak was the highest ever recorded on cable television, with the match for its entirety drawing a near-record 8.3 rating, with Raw overall drawing its second highest opposed rating in history with a 6.8.